I want you to imagine something with me for a second. It's late at night. Your phone screen is the only light in the room. You're scrolling bills, messages, maybe social media. And there's this quiet feeling in your chest you can't quite name. It's not panic. It's not desperation. It's this low, constant pressure. Like no matter how hard you try, money always feels one step ahead of you. You're working. You're trying. But the future still feels fragile. Now, here's the strange part. Most people think the reason they feel this way is because they don't make enough money. But what if that's not the real reason? What if the real problem is that no one ever showed us how small, boring decisions quietly shape our future? And what if something as unimpressive as $100 a month could actually change the way your life unfolds? When people hear $100 a month, their first reaction is usually disappointment. That's it. That won't fix rent. That won't erase debt. That won't make me rich. And they're right, in the short term. We've been trained to believe that money only matters when it's big. Big salaries, big investments, big wins. So when something feels small, we mentally dismiss it. But psychology doesn't work that way. Your brain doesn't care about how impressive a number looks. It cares about patterns. It cares about consistency. It cares about whether you feel in control or helpless. And this is where most people misunderstand money. They think financial progress is about intensity, about dramatic change, about finally getting ahead. In reality, it's about reducing quiet stress. It's about creating a sense of safety that slowly rewires how you think, how you decide, and how you sleep at night. Let me explain what's actually happening under the surface. When you live paycheck to paycheck, even if you're managing fine on paper, your nervous system never really relaxes. Every unexpected expense feels like a threat. A car repair, a medical bill, a family emergency. Your brain stays in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you don't think long term. You don't plan clearly. You don't make patient decisions. You react. This is why so many smart, hardworking people make financial choices they later regret. Not because they're responsible, but because chronic financial stress narrows your mental bandwidth. Psychologists call this scarcity mindset. When resources feel tight, your brain becomes obsessed with the present moment. It trades future stability for immediate relief. And here's where the $100 comes in, not as a wealth strategy, but as a psychological interrupt. Let's talk about what actually changes when you consistently set aside $100 a month. At first, it feels almost pointless. You might save it for 3 months and still not feel secure. 6 months in, it's nice, but nothing dramatic. But something subtle starts happening. You stop panicking when your phone buzzes. You hesitate less before checking your bank balance. You feel slightly more grounded, not rich, just steadier. And steadiness is powerful. Because once your brain senses a small buffer, it stops screaming for immediate solutions. You give yourself time to think. Time to compare options. Time to say no. Now let's look at the math. Not the flashy kind, just the honest kind. $100 a month is $1,200 a year. Over 5 years, that's $6,000 without even factoring growth. But the real value isn't the number. It's what that number represents. It represents proof. Proof that you can create margin in your life. Proof that future you exists. Proof that not every dollar has to be spent reacting to today. That belief quietly changes behavior. People who build small financial buffers tend to take fewer desperate risks. They negotiate better. They leave bad jobs sooner. They avoid high-interest debt more often. Not because they're smarter, but because they're calmer. Here's a scenario that might feel uncomfortably familiar. You're at work. You don't love the job, but it pays the bills. Your boss sends a message that rubs you the wrong way. If you're financially stretched, that moment feels dangerous. You swallow your feelings. You stay quiet. You tell yourself you can't afford conflict. But if you have even a small cushion, a few months of expenses slowly forming, that same moment feels different. You still need the job, but you're not trapped, and that changes how you carry yourself. Money doesn't buy confidence, but it reduces fear. And reduced fear changes everything. This is the turning point most people miss. $100 a month isn't about becoming wealthy. It's about moving from fragile to flexible, from reactive to intentional. Once you experience that shift, you stop asking, how do I get rich fast? You start asking, how do I make my life feel less heavy? And that's a much healthier question, because when money decisions are tied to peace instead of ego, you make better ones. You don't chase every opportunity. You don't compare yourself as much. You don't feel behind all the time. You start playing a longer game. Now let's talk about how this actually fits into real life. Not a perfect life, a messy one, rent, groceries, family expectations, unexpected costs that always show up at the worst time. This isn't about cutting joy or living like a monk. It's about choosing one small, boring commitment to your future. For some people, that $100 comes from eating out a little less. For others, it's from delaying a purchase that felt urgent, but wasn't. And for many, it starts smaller, $50, even $25, and grows over time. The exact number matters less than the habit, because habits shape identity. Once you see yourself as someone who saves, even a little, you behave differently. You protect that identity. There's also something important to say here. If $100 feels impossible right now, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means the system is heavy. Wages haven't kept up. Costs keep rising. Pressure comes from everywhere. This isn't a personal flaw. But even in tough systems, small acts of control matter. They remind you that you're not powerless, that you're participating in your future, not just surviving the present. Over time, that $100 starts to stack. Maybe it becomes an emergency fund. Maybe it turns into an investment. Maybe it gives you the courage to take a class, switch careers, or move cities. Not because the money did something magical, but because you did. You changed your relationship with uncertainty. And that's the real transformation. I want to end with this. Most people don't need more money to feel better. They need more certainty, more breathing room, more trust in themselves. Progress doesn't come from dramatic leaps. It comes from quiet consistency. From choosing stability over stress month after month. So if all you can do right now is $100 or even less, that's not small. That's a signal to your future self that you're paying attention, that you care, that you're building something slowly, patiently, honestly, and that's how futures actually change. Not overnight, but over time. Progress beats perfection every single month.